Have you ever noticed that the most attractive people in the room are rarely the ones trying to be seen? They are not the loudest voice. They are not constantly speaking, explaining, proving, or seeking approval. In fact, if you pay close attention, they often do less than everyone else. And still, something about them pulls people in. This is where most people misunderstand attraction. We were taught that to be noticed, you need to show more, speak more, impress more, prove your value. But the truth works in the opposite direction. The more you try to be seen, the more you reveal a need to be validated. And the moment people sense that need, your presence loses weight. Because attraction is not built on effort, it is built on perception. And perception is shaped by control. There is a different kind of presence that very few people develop. A presence that does not compete for attention, yet quietly dominates the environment. It is not aggressive. It is not performative. It does not seek to impress. It simply exists with a level of calm and certainty that most people cannot fake. The Stoics understood this deeply. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 2, Paragraph 1, that you should not waste time arguing about what a good man is. Be one. This idea carries a powerful message. When you truly embody something, you no longer need to convince anyone of it. That is where real attraction begins. It begins when your actions are aligned with your inner state, when you are not trying to project an image, but simply living in control of yourself. No overreactions. No need to dominate conversations. No urgency to be liked. Just presence. Epictetus also warned that when you depend on external things, you become a slave to them. And nothing is more externally driven than the constant need for approval. When your mood, your confidence, and your identity depend on how others see you, you lose stability. And people can feel that instability, even if you say all the right words. Now think about the opposite. A person who is calm under pressure, who listens more than speaks, who does not react impulsively, who does not chase attention, who seems unaffected by opinions. That person creates a different kind of energy, one that signals strength without effort, and that energy is rare. Rarity creates value. This is why quiet attraction is so powerful. It is not obvious, it is not loud, but it is deeply felt. It creates curiosity because people cannot easily read it. It creates respect because it shows control, and it creates attraction because it is not trying to. But here is the part that most people avoid. This kind of presence is not something you are born with. It is not a personality trait. It is the result of specific habits. Habits that require awareness, discipline, and the willingness to let go of behaviors that feel comfortable but weaken your presence. And most people never develop them. They continue chasing attention, thinking that visibility equals value. They speak too much, react too quickly, seek approval without realizing that each of these actions slowly erodes the very thing they are trying to build. So before we go any further, you need to question something. What if the behaviors you believe make you more attractive are actually making you less? Because once you see that clearly, everything starts to change. And the first shift begins with understanding a simple truth that most people never stop to examine. The illusion of modern attraction. Most people are not unattractive. They are just trapped in the wrong strategy. They believe attraction is something you build by adding more. More talking, more showing, more proving, more effort. They think that if they can just present themselves well enough, say the right things, or be seen often enough, they will become valuable in the eyes of others. But what they do not realize is that this constant effort creates the opposite effect. Because every time you try to prove your value, you communicate doubt about it. This is the illusion of modern attraction. It teaches you to perform instead of to become. It teaches you to seek attention instead of building presence. And the more you follow it, the more dependent you become on external reactions. You start measuring yourself through other people's responses. A look, a like, a comment, a reaction. And without noticing, your confidence begins to fluctuate based on things you cannot control. Seneca warned about this in Letters from a Stoic, Letter 13, when he spoke about how easily the mind becomes disturbed when it depends on what is outside of it. The moment your stability is placed in external approval, you lose the ability to remain steady, and instability is felt immediately. You can see it in someone who talks too much just to fill silence, in someone who laughs too quickly, agrees too easily, reacts too strongly. It feels forced. It feels uncertain. It feels like they are trying to be accepted rather than simply existing with confidence. Now contrast that with someone who does less, someone who does not rush to speak, who does not explain themselves unnecessarily, who does not react to everything. There is space in their behavior. There is control. There is intention. And that space creates weight. Because when someone is not trying to impress you, you start paying attention to them differently. You begin to wonder what they are thinking. You start to observe their actions more closely. Their silence becomes more noticeable than someone else's noise. This is where attraction begins to shift. It is no longer about what you add. It is about what you remove. You remove the need to be validated. You remove the urgency to be liked. You remove the impulse to react to everything. And in that removal, something stronger appears: clarity. Epictetus made this clear when he said that if you want to improve, you must be content to be thought foolish and stupid by others. This is not about being passive. It is about not needing to defend your image at every moment. Because the moment you stop trying to control how others see you, you regain control over yourself. And that is where true presence begins. Most people never reach this point because they are too busy managing impressions. They are constantly adjusting, reacting, performing. And in doing so, they lose the one thing that cannot be faked: inner stability. Without it, every action feels slightly off. With it, even the smallest action carries weight. So as you move forward, understand this. Attraction is not built by doing more, it is built by needing less. And once you understand that, the next step becomes unavoidable. Because if attraction comes from control, then the first habit you must develop is learning how to control the one thing most people never question: their reactions. Habit 1. Control reactions instead of impressing. Most people spend their lives trying to control how they are perceived. Very few ever learn to control how they react, and that is the difference. When you try to impress, you are constantly adjusting yourself to the moment. You react to what is said, to how people look at you, to how you think you are being judged. Your behavior becomes a reflection of the environment, not a reflection of who you are, and people can feel that immediately. There is a subtle tension in someone who is always reacting. Their tone changes depending on who they are with. Their energy shifts depending on the situation. They laugh when others laugh, speak when others expect them to speak, respond even when silence would be stronger. It feels unstable. Now compare that to someone who is grounded, someone who does not rush to respond, who allows a moment to pass before speaking, who does not feel the need to react to every comment, every provocation, every situation. There is a calm delay in their behavior, a sense that nothing external can easily move them. That delay is power. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 6, paragraph 30, that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This is not just philosophy. It is a practical advantage, because the moment you stop reacting automatically, you stop being predictable, and unpredictability creates presence. When people cannot easily read your reactions, they begin to pay closer attention. When you do not respond emotionally to everything, your responses start to carry more weight. And when you choose your reactions instead of giving them away, you signal something rare: control. Most people give their reactions away without thinking. A small criticism changes their mood. A look affects their confidence. A situation triggers an immediate emotional response. They are constantly pulled by external forces without even realizing it. But the Stoic understands something different. Epictetus taught that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. This means that between what happens and how you respond, there is a space. And in that space, you decide who you are. Most people never use that space. They collapse it. They react instantly. And in doing so, they lose control over their own presence. But when you slow that moment down, everything changes. You begin to observe instead of react. You begin to choose instead of follow impulse. You become deliberate. And that is where attraction starts to deepen. Because someone who is in control of their reactions cannot be easily shaken. They do not overreact. They do not chase. They do not need to prove anything in the moment. Their energy remains steady, regardless of what is happening around them. That steadiness creates trust. It creates respect. And without saying a word, it creates attraction. But here is where it becomes even more powerful. When you stop reacting impulsively, you naturally start speaking less. You stop filling every silence. You stop responding to every stimulus. And in that shift, something unexpected begins to develop. Your silence starts to speak for you. And that is exactly where the next habit begins. Habit 2, mastering silence. Most people are uncomfortable with silence. The moment a conversation slows down, they rush to fill it. They speak to avoid awkwardness, to maintain attention, to prove engagement. Words become a shield, a way to stay relevant in the moment. But in doing that, they lose something far more powerful. They lose presence, because silence, when used correctly, is not emptiness. It is control. A person who is comfortable in silence sends a very different signal. They are not trying to hold attention. They are not afraid of being judged. They are not dependent on constant interaction to feel secure. They allow space to exist without needing to fill it. And that space creates tension, not negative tension, but a kind of psychological weight that draws people in. When you do not rush to speak, others begin to focus more on you. When you pause before responding, your words gain importance. When you say less, each sentence carries more impact. This is why silence is not passive, it is strategic. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, letter 40, that true conversation is not about speaking much, but about speaking well. Most people reverse this. They believe more words create more value, when in reality, excess weakens clarity, and clarity is what people respond to. When someone speaks with restraint, it signals thoughtfulness. It shows that they are not driven by impulse. It creates the impression that their words are chosen, not spilled, and that alone increases the weight of everything they say. Now think about how rare that is. In a world where everyone is constantly expressing, explaining, and reacting, the person who remains composed, who listens fully, who does not interrupt, becomes different without trying. And difference creates attention. Epictetus emphasized that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. The intention is not silence for the sake of silence, but awareness. When you listen more than you speak, you begin to understand more than others. You notice patterns, emotions, intentions. You gain insight that those who speak constantly will never access. And that insight translates into power, because when you finally do speak, it is not random. It is precise. It lands. This is where silence transforms into attraction. It creates mystery, because people cannot easily read you. It creates respect, because you are not competing for space. And it creates presence, because your energy is not scattered through constant expression. But there is another layer that most people miss. Silence also protects you. When you speak less, you expose less. You avoid unnecessary explanations, unnecessary reactions, unnecessary mistakes. You maintain control over what you reveal and when you reveal it. And that control reinforces your stability. Now compare that to someone who speaks constantly. They reveal everything too quickly. They react without thinking. They fill space without intention. And in doing so, they lose the very thing they are trying to build. Value. Because value is not in how much you say, it is in how much weight your words carry, and that weight is built in silence. But here is the shift that changes everything. The moment you become comfortable with silence, you no longer need others to validate your presence. You are no longer trying to hold attention through words. You are simply there, grounded, aware, in control. And that naturally leads to the next habit. Because once you stop needing to speak to be seen, you begin to question something deeper. Do you still need approval at all? Habit 3, not seeking approval. Most people do not realize how much of their behavior is driven by the need to be accepted. It shows in the way they speak, in the way they agree too quickly, in the way they adjust themselves depending on who they are around. They are constantly scanning the environment, looking for signs of approval, and then shaping their actions to match what they believe will be well received. And without noticing, they give away their power. Because the moment your actions depend on how others respond to you, you are no longer acting from strength. You are reacting from need. And need is always felt. It is subtle, but it is there. In the tone, in the hesitation, in the way someone seeks validation through small signals, a look, a reaction, a confirmation. It creates a sense that something is being asked for, even if no words are spoken. And that weakens attraction, because attraction is not built on need. It is built on self-sufficiency. Seneca made this clear in Letters from a Stoic, Letter 9, when he spoke about the wise man being content within himself. This does not mean isolation. It means independence. It means your sense of value does not fluctuate based on external opinions. And that changes everything. When you no longer seek approval, your behavior becomes stable. You do not adjust yourself to be liked. You do not say things just to gain agreement. You do not hide parts of yourself out of fear of rejection. You simply act in alignment with who you are. And that alignment is felt immediately. There is a quiet confidence in someone who does not need to be accepted. They are not arrogant, not dismissive, not indifferent. They are simply grounded. They engage without dependence. They interact without needing to win approval. And that creates a different kind of dynamic. Because when you stop trying to be liked, people start questioning why. They start observing you more closely. They become more aware of your behavior. Your presence becomes more defined because it is not shaped by the environment. It stands on its own. Epictetus warned that if you want to please others, you will inevitably become their slave. Not in a literal sense, but in a psychological one. Your mood, your decisions, your identity become tied to how others respond to you. And once that happens, you lose control. Now consider the opposite. A person who does not need approval cannot be easily influenced. They do not chase attention. They do not seek validation. They are not affected by small shifts in perception. Their behavior remains consistent, regardless of who is watching. That consistency builds trust. It builds respect. And without effort, it builds attraction. Because people are drawn to what feels solid. And nothing feels more solid than someone who is comfortable being themselves, without needing permission. But here is where it becomes even more powerful. When you stop seeking approval, you also stop fearing disapproval. You are no longer controlled by the possibility of rejection. You are no longer adjusting yourself to avoid negative reactions. And in that freedom, your presence becomes stronger, more direct, more real. And that leads to the next level. Because once you are no longer dependent on how people see you, there is only one thing left to master: how you handle what happens around you. Habit 4, being hard to shake. Most people do not lose attraction because of what happens to them. They lose it because of how easily they are shaken by what happens. A small criticism changes their mood. A delay in response creates anxiety. A disagreement becomes something personal. Their emotional state rises and falls based on events they cannot control, and this constant fluctuation makes their presence unstable. And instability is always noticed. You can see it in the way someone reacts too quickly, in the way their tone shifts under pressure, in the way they try to recover their composure after being affected. Even if they try to hide it, the reaction already revealed something: a lack of control. Now compare that to someone who remains steady, someone who receives criticism without defensiveness, who faces uncertainty without panic, who experiences tension without losing clarity. There is a calmness in their behavior that does not break under pressure. That calmness is rare, and rarity creates value. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 8, paragraph 48, that the mind becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. This means that what you allow to affect you shapes who you become. If every external event disturbs you, your internal state becomes fragile. But if you choose what deserves your reaction, your mind remains clear. And clarity is power. Most people never develop this because they are constantly reacting to everything. Every comment feels significant. Every situation feels urgent. Every outcome feels personal. They give importance to things that do not deserve it, and in doing so, they exhaust themselves. But the Stoic sees differently. He understands that not everything requires a response. Not everything deserves attention. Not everything has the power to disturb him unless he allows it, and that changes how he moves through the world. Epictetus taught that when something happens, the only thing within your control is how you respond to it. If you master that, nothing external can truly disturb you. This is not about suppressing emotion. It is about choosing your reaction instead of being controlled by it. And that choice creates stability. When you are hard to shake, people begin to trust your presence. They feel that you are not easily affected, not easily influenced, not easily broken. You become someone who can handle pressure without losing direction. And that creates respect. It also creates a sense of safety. Others feel that your behavior will not suddenly change based on circumstances. Your energy remains consistent. Your reactions remain measured. Your presence remains grounded. That consistency builds something deeper than attraction. It builds reliability. But there is another layer to this. When you are hard to shake, you stop wasting energy on things that do not matter. You are no longer pulled into unnecessary conflicts. You are no longer distracted by small disturbances. Your focus becomes sharper. Your actions become clearer. And that leads to something most people never achieve: intentional living. Because once you are no longer reacting to everything, you gain the ability to act with purpose. You begin to move by choice, not by impulse. And that is where the next habit begins. Habit 5. Acting with intention, not impulse. Most people move through life reacting. They speak when something triggers them. They act when something excites them. They decide based on how they feel in the moment. Their actions are not chosen. They are released. And that creates a pattern. Inconsistency. One day they are focused. The next day they are distracted. One moment they are confident. The next they hesitate. Their direction constantly shifts because it is tied to impulse, not to intention. And people can feel that. There is no weight in someone whose behavior changes with every situation. There is no stability in someone who acts based on mood. It feels scattered, unpredictable in the wrong way, lacking control. Now contrast that with someone who moves with intention, someone who does not act immediately, who pauses, evaluates, and then decides, who is not driven by emotion in the moment, but by a clear internal standard. Their actions are not random. They are aligned, and that alignment creates power. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 4, Paragraph 2, that a man should do what is in front of him with precise and genuine seriousness. This is the essence of intentional action. You are not reacting to everything around you. You are choosing what deserves your energy. That choice creates discipline, and discipline is visible even when nothing is said. You can see it in how someone carries themselves, in how they respond, in how they move through situations without urgency, without hesitation, without unnecessary emotion. There is a rhythm to their behavior that feels controlled, not forced. That rhythm builds presence, because when your actions are intentional, they become predictable in the right way. People begin to understand that you do not act randomly, that you are not easily influenced, that your decisions come from a place of clarity, not impulse, and that creates trust. Epictetus emphasized that you should not seek for things to happen as you wish, but wish for things to happen as they do, and you will go on well. This is not passive acceptance. It is alignment with reality. It allows you to act based on what is, not on what you feel in the moment. And that distinction changes everything. Most people are constantly reacting to how they feel. If they feel motivated, they act. If they feel uncertain, they hesitate. If they feel challenged, they withdraw. Their behavior is controlled by internal fluctuations they do not question. But when you act with intention, you remove that dependency. You act because it is the right action, not because it feels right in the moment. You remain consistent, even when your emotions change. And that consistency builds something rare: reliability within yourself. When you trust your own actions, your presence becomes stronger. You are no longer second-guessing, no longer adjusting based on fleeting feelings. You move forward with clarity, and that clarity is felt by others. It creates respect because it shows control. It creates attraction because it signals maturity, and it creates a sense of direction that most people lack. But here is where it deepens. When you stop acting on impulse, you also stop needing immediate results. You become less attached to outcomes, less driven by instant reactions. You begin to operate on a longer timeline. And that leads to the next habit. Because once your actions are no longer driven by impulse, you begin to question something even deeper. Do you really need others to understand you at all? Habit 6. Letting go of the need to be understood. Most people do not just want to be seen, they want to be understood. They explain themselves too much. They justify their decisions. They try to make others see their perspective, hoping for agreement, hoping for validation, hoping to feel recognized. And without realizing it, they place their peace in someone else's hands. Because the moment you need to be understood, you become dependent on how others interpret you. And interpretation is something you cannot control. People see the world through their own experiences, their own biases, their own limitations. No matter how clearly you explain yourself, there will always be someone who misunderstands you, disagrees with you, or simply does not see things the way you do. And if your stability depends on being understood, you will always feel slightly unsettled. This is where most people lose their grounding. They try to correct every misunderstanding. They try to defend every perception. They feel the need to clarify, to justify, to make sure others see them the right way. And in doing so, they reveal something subtle: insecurity. Because someone who is truly grounded does not need constant interpretation from others. They understand themselves. Epictetus taught that if you want to improve, you must be willing to be seen as ignorant or foolish in the eyes of others. This is not about being careless. It is about not needing to manage every opinion directed at you. Because the moment you stop trying to control how others understand you, you regain control over how you experience yourself. And that is where freedom begins. There is a quiet strength in someone who does not over-explain, who does not rush to justify their choices, who allows others to think what they want without feeling the need to intervene. It creates a different kind of presence. Because when you are not constantly clarifying yourself, you become less predictable. People cannot fully define you. They cannot easily place you into categories. And that creates something powerful: mystery. But more than that, it creates independence. You are no longer adjusting your behavior to fit someone else's expectations. You are no longer shaping your words to ensure approval. You are simply acting in alignment with your own understanding, regardless of how it is received. And that alignment builds confidence. Seneca wrote in Letters from a Stoic, letter 26, that the greatest obstacle to living is expectation, which depends on tomorrow and wastes today. The same applies here. When you expect to be understood, you delay your peace. You place it in a future that depends on someone else's perception. But when you release that expectation, you return to the present. You act, you speak, you move without needing external confirmation. And that makes your presence lighter, yet stronger. People begin to notice that you are not easily affected by opinions, that you are not trying to control how you are perceived, that you are comfortable existing without constant validation. And that creates respect, because most people are trapped in the opposite. They are constantly adjusting, constantly explaining, constantly seeking to be understood, and in doing so, they lose the clarity that comes from simply being. But when you let go of that need, something shifts. You become more direct, more grounded, more focused on what matters instead of how it is perceived. And that leads to the final habit. Because once you stop seeking approval and stop needing to be understood, there is only one thing left that defines your presence: what you truly stand on. Habit 7. Living aligned with principles. Most people build their identity around circumstances. They adjust based on who they are with. They change based on what is expected. They shift depending on what benefits them in the moment. Their behavior is flexible, but not in a controlled way. It is flexible because it lacks a foundation. And without a foundation, there is no consistency. You can feel it in someone who says one thing and does another, in someone who appears confident in one situation and uncertain in another, in someone whose values seem to change depending on the environment. It creates a subtle sense of distrust, because there is nothing stable underneath. Now compare that to someone who lives by principles, someone who does not act based on convenience, but based on what they believe is right. Someone whose decisions are guided by a clear internal code, not by external pressure. Their behavior does not fluctuate with circumstances because it is anchored in something deeper, and that creates strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote in Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 7, paragraph 54, that if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This is the essence of alignment. Your actions, your words, and your thoughts follow the same direction. There is no contradiction, and that absence of contradiction creates trust. Because when someone is aligned, you know what to expect from them. Not because they are predictable in a weak way, but because they are consistent in a strong way. Their behavior is not influenced by temporary gain or momentary pressure. It is guided by something internal and stable, and stability is attractive. Epictetus emphasized that your will should be in harmony with nature, meaning your actions should reflect a deeper understanding of what is right, not what is easy. This creates a kind of inner order that becomes visible externally. You do not need to speak about your values. People see them in how you act, in how you handle pressure, in how you respond to difficulty, in how you treat others when there is nothing to gain. These moments reveal alignment more than any words ever could. And that is what creates respect. Because respect is not built on appearance. It is built on consistency over time. When people see that you do not compromise your principles for approval, for attention, or for comfort, they begin to see you differently. Your presence carries weight, not because you demand it, but because you live in a way that earns it. And that weight creates attraction. Not the kind that is based on surface-level traits, but the kind that is rooted in character. The kind that remains even when nothing is being said. The kind that grows over time instead of fading. But here is the deeper layer. When you live aligned with principles, you stop negotiating with yourself. You are no longer divided between what you know is right and what feels easy. You remove internal conflict. And when there is no conflict inside, your external presence becomes clearer, stronger, more defined. And that clarity is rare. Most people are in constant negotiation between who they are and who they think they should be, between what they believe and what they do. That tension weakens their presence, even if they try to hide it. But when you are aligned, there is no tension. There is direction. And that direction is what ultimately defines how others perceive you. Because in the end, attraction is not built on what you say, what you show, or what you try to project. It is built on what you consistently are. And once you reach this point, everything else becomes clear. Because the habits you have just seen are not separate. They are connected. They build on each other. They shape a presence that does not need to ask for attention, because it naturally commands it. And that leads to the final realization. The secret: no one notices. Most people spend their lives trying to be seen. They adjust their behavior, their words, their image, always chasing something just out of reach. More attention, more validation, more recognition, and even when they get it, it never feels stable. It fades, it shifts, it depends on something outside of them. And that is why it never lasts. Because what is built on external perception will always be controlled by it. But what you have seen here follows a completely different path. It is not about becoming more visible. It is about becoming more grounded. It is not about adding more to your personality. It is about removing what weakens it. The need to react, the need to speak, the need to be approved, the need to be understood. Each of these habits takes something away. And in that removal, something stronger appears. Clarity, control, presence. The Stoics did not teach how to be attractive. They taught how to be unshakable. But what most people fail to see is that these two things are deeply connected, because when a person is unshakable, they become rare. And rarity creates value. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself in Meditations of Marcus Aurelius, Book 12, Paragraph 3, that everything you do should be done as if it were the last thing you were doing in your life. This is not about intensity. It is about awareness. It is about living with intention, without distraction, without the constant pull of external noise. When you live like that, your presence changes. You are no longer reacting to everything around you. You are no longer trying to manage how others see you. You are no longer seeking something outside to confirm what you already know inside. You simply exist with control, and that control is felt. It is felt in your silence, in your reactions, in your decisions, in your consistency. It is not something you announce. It is something others notice without understanding why. That is the nature of quiet attraction. It does not demand attention, yet it holds it. It does not try to impress, yet it leaves an impression. It does not depend on others, yet it draws them in. And the reason is simple. It is real. Most people are performing, adjusting, reacting. But when someone stands still in who they are, without needing to prove anything, it creates contrast. And that contrast makes them stand out without trying. So if there is one thing to take from all of this, it is this. Attraction is not something you chase. It is something that appears when you stop chasing everything else. When you control your reactions, your words, your impulses, your need for approval, your need to be understood. And when you live aligned with what you believe, you build something that cannot be easily replicated. A presence that does not fluctuate. A presence that does not depend. A presence that does not ask. And because of that, it becomes something people are naturally drawn to. Not because you tried, but because you no longer needed to.